And we live now. So welcome to the Julian Talks conference call where we motivate, educate, and escalate together. I am your host, Julian Garcia, along with my co-host, Helsi Aziz and Mike Towns. This conference call is part of a series of calls that we have on a bi-weekly on Sundays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I always reiterate these times because it's, people that want to join in different time zones. Toy will be in an hour behind us. People want to join from the West Coast, stuff like that, just to kind of put time zones into perspective and to know exactly when they should join in their time zone. Our purpose for these calls is to demonstrate and educate the individuals about financial growth, business, and just in general, for your general entertainment. Just a reminder that all participants' mics will be muted for clarity, and if you wish to speak, please wait until proper timing. The opening topic that we had decided to start off with is something Mike wanted to touch on, and the quote was, "When fear is present, then your genius is suppressed." So, Mike, I'll let you go ahead and.
The reason I thought that would be a good subject to touch on, I was just, again, I think we talked about it last time, but for once, I actually was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I had never read it before. I was surprised. I mean, I feel like it's a very interesting book, and I love everything that it talks about. And that was one thing that they mentioned. And one of the good examples is just really, I mean, a lot of the again, we mentioned it before, where probably the graveyard is the richest place ever because people do not pursue their ideas. And so I think it's just curious to kind of talk about and just hear what you guys' thoughts are maybe in regards to why do people not really pursue their passions, or why do people, you have a genius idea, and what is it that's holding you back? And again, I think in the book, it does touch base that literally the majority of people are just fearful maybe of losing security, fearful of maybe what others are going to think about them for pursuing something that may seem otherwise crazy to the normal world. But if we don't have those people, obviously you don't have companies like Apple or Tesla and all these other large companies. So, how, I guess, do we kind of overcome those fears, or what have, Toyosi, I mean, you're a great example of somebody that's pursuing something innovative and different, and, you've pursued it with confidence, and it's been very successful for you. And so you've pursued your passion and your dream, that is a genius, and you've conquered your fear, if there was any, of doing so. So how do we help each other, and what are ways, I guess, that we overcome those fears in order to make our dreams a reality?
Yeah. If you don't mind me, I can step in and talk about like what I did personally, what helped me get over the fear. So when I started my business adventure, being like entrepreneurship, I started in high school, and that was unplanned. I didn't plan on starting that early, but it just kind of came to me. But then I had to personally, I'll admit, I had an advantage because I had lower risk. I was in high school, so like my parents were still helping me out financially, right? A lot of people now, if they were to start say in the early to mid 20s, have a paycheck that they're relying on, and it's kind of tough for them to, go full time. But if I was to start in my early 20s, I would assume I would start by taking a lot of notes and trying to detail the plan of strategy and be meticulous as I can be, like literally step by step, like, what lawyer should I contact? Why am I contacting this lawyer? What is the idea, of course, and how am I going to pursue the plan? So like, say for instance, if someone was to give me $1 million for an investment in early 20s, how would I allocate those resources? Where would I put it towards? So I think the best way to approach it, no matter what stage you are in your life, is to be as detailed as possible. That way it provides more clarity. Because when you don't have clarity when it comes to certain things, like this high level of risk, the opposite of that is higher anxiety and worry, and like you said, fear. So to kind of decrease that, you want to be as clear as possible. You just want to make sure, where to go. So to use like a kind of a silly example, say for instance, you're out on a date in a foreign city with your significant other, and you have to use the restroom, but you don't know where to go. You're like, you have to go. Like you're gonna, in 5 minutes, you gotta burst. But if you knew exactly where to go, the exact path, you have lower fear, because now you're like, all right, I'm gonna make it on time. But if you have no idea where to go, you're panicking. You don't know which direction to go in. I think that's what kind of drives that fear. You're unclear of the destination. So that same analogy applies to business or different ideas you may have. I think just knowing what path you want to go on and how to maneuver in that path, which would then provide clarity and lower that fear. I think that's the best approach.
Yeah, I like that. No, I'd agree with you too. I think another thing is just starting. You know what I mean? Like, I think the backbone, like you said, is kind of making a structure and really putting something together that you can have confidence and faith in. But then a lot of people just don't ever start. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, me and you had at a company together that you know, didn't really do great at all, right? And there were some things that we learned through that, though. And I think that's been the phrase I've always heard, is that you either win or you learn. And I think that's something that can accelerate people actually pursuing something. Because if in the end, really, what is money? I mean, it is an exchange for something that gives you maybe more freedom, right?
Yeah, it's a tool.
Yeah, but I think sometimes we put power on like money. So like, okay, well, if I have this in my account, it has to stay, like, I can't lose. Like, but it is, like you said, it's really a tool. You need to use that. You can make it either hurt you or go further. And again, if you have that structure up front, that's important. But then the other thing is you have to start. You know, you can read every book in the world about anything tech or real estate or, you know, but if you're that doctor and you never practiced on a cadaver and then got to the stage where you had your first patient and now you're doing surgery, then you're not really a doctor. You're never going to be that, no matter what your education is. So you have to put the pedal to the metal and actually pursue it.
Yeah. You know, I read a quote that said, you know, a plan without execution is like having a bow without an arrow. You have to be able to actually put one foot in front of the other and, you know, have action. Don't just, like you said, sit there and be dreaming all day. If you actually want to do something about it, bring it to reality. It's tough, you know, but it's possible. People are doing it every day. They figure it out one way or the other. And I think that if you really want to do it, it will happen. You know, what's meant to be will be.
Yeah. And one thing that is too is like that they said in the book is really, like, when you don't start and you don't put something to execution, you can have all these ideas, but if you're held back by that fear and you don't actually go, it's almost like sitting at a red light and waiting till all the lights for the next 5 miles are going to be green before you actually start.
Good way to put it.
Oh, you're just waiting for every piece to go, well, I need to do this first. I need to know this, or I need the perfect timing. But really, there's not really the perfect timing. You just gotta go after it.
Yeah, perfection is the enemy of progression. It's never going to be perfect. So, you know, just got to build and go from there. I actually read a quote that said also that you don't reach your potential, you develop your potential. So, you know, like, you can't expect, like, when a newborn baby to just know how to walk immediately. They fall down a lot of times and learn over time. And that's another conversation another day, how, like, the school system in America kind of beats that out of you. And like an assembly line to go work 9 to 5. That's another discussion, but you know, there's an issue of, you know, expecting students or people when they're young to have the confidence to build something. When we continue to tell them to sit down and shut up, they're gonna, you know, kind of be conditioned to not have enough leadership or you know, enough intuition or drive to get up there and actually succeed or even try. You know, so. It's tough to overcome a lot of the things that we've been conditioned as younger people. Because to me, entrepreneurship shouldn't be this thing where only a small percentage of people are able to do. I think it should be, like, if anything, 50-50. Nothing's wrong with a 9 to 5, but, you know, it shouldn't be that skewed. I don't think it should be that. It shouldn't be an outlier to be a successful entrepreneur. That to me is not good. I think that's messed up.
Yeah. One other thing, real quick, before I know I feel like we're kind of going back and forth. If I let it.
No, good. Yeah, it's good.
I thought about this analogy too, and like it kind of goes into what you said. With you have to have that destination and vision of you being there. But I was just thinking, even like with like basketball, right? Like every single time that your opponent scores, you failed. You know what I mean? If you think about it, like your whole goal every single time down the court on defense is to make sure that the other team doesn't score. So every time that they do, they fail. But like you said, the end goal is to make sure that my score is higher than theirs. So if you have a career or you have something that you're pursuing in entrepreneurship and you fail 20 times over, as long as you're consistently going back, taking what you did, you're learning, and you're adjusting, and in the end goal, you win that game, you still won the game. It doesn't matter how many times you failed.
Yeah, no one remembers every basket. They just remember who won at the end.
Exactly. So I think that's important.
For sure.
And you know, and the crazy thing is, man, fear is such a strong word. Fear is what keeps people up at night. Fear is what keeps people from being entrepreneurs. Fear is what keeps people from wanting to go out of their comfort zone because they fear that things won't be the same once they step out and do things different that's out of their parameters. So there's so many people that walk around that do the same thing over and over like a broken record that just keeps playing the same tune because they're used to that repetition that's geared their lives to be what it is now, you know, and so many of us are guilty of that, you know. So many of us, you know, when we have something in line that could potentially change the course or the path of our lives, we're almost afraid at some points, you know, because it's like, man, did I make the right decision? Should I have done this right now? Should I pull the trigger right now? You know, and fear is met with questions. You know, and if you keep questioning yourself, that's just the fear rearing its ugly head time and time again in your mind. Because you're second guessing yourself. You're second guessing your confidence. You're second guessing your intuition, you know, your integrity. There's so many things that people will question about themselves when stepping out of 9 to 5 per se to an entrepreneurship role, you know.
Right.
So many of us are geared to be you know, just the normal average person that we have always been, you know, because it's easy, like Toya was saying, there's nothing wrong with a 9 to 5, but it's easy, you know. It's like I said, it's like it's repetition. It's something that it keeps you comfortable. You know, at the end of the day, there's, you know, you got a paycheck waiting for you on Friday, and you know, you don't have to worry about much because, like I said, it's pretty much a lot of
All right,
9 to
guys.
5 jobs.
I was knelt down, like, because I'm in Chicago, for those that don't know, and there's literally 20 cops and a helicopter outside here. So I want to make sure I'm good to go. I'm straight. Can you guys hear the sirens?
No.
I see the lights.
You see the light, the blue lights? Yeah.
Yeah, I see the blue lights.
Yeah, I can see it.
I've been here for 2 years. I've never seen anything like this. It's crazy how it's happening right now. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
I just want to make sure I'm good because
No, I definitely
talking about
your
my
safety.
door. Yeah,
Your,
like, I don't
your
know.
safety is definitely more important than anything. So
It doesn't matter if I'm not here. I can't speak. So
right. I definitely.
Right.
Well, it's a good thing you got 19 floors between you and that
I
situation.
know. That's
so.
why I'm talking myself fine. This is They found me, guys. I'm joking.
See, look, and that's the thing too. And that's a prime example. That's an unfortunate prime example of the fear because you've been there for 2 years and you've never seen nothing like that go on before.
I know.
But
yeah,
now,
this is
you
not.
know,
Not making this up. It's really just
yeah, exactly. And this is the prime example of the first topic of the fear in it because you're used to the same old thing going on around your building, around your residence, and when something like that happens, 20 cop cars and a helicopter flying around, you're like, what the hell? You know, this don't usually happen around here, you know? So it's the same thing when people's, like I keep saying, step out of that comfort zone and want to go into business for themselves and, you know, take a different venture than what they've been doing for the last 10, 15, you know, plus years. They're like, you know, I'm tired of the same thing, you know? And, you know, I've always had this plan. I want to open a restaurant. I think I'm going to go ahead and go forward with it. And then eventually they do, you know, they step up and they make it happen. But the fear stays with them until they grow more comfortable, until they get into a flow, until they realize that I'm not going to be successful probably for the first couple years. You know, people have to, and I've always heard, in order to be successful, you have to be willing to fail. So you have to accept failure from time to time as a learning experience and not negative all the time. Because when people hear failure, we've been taught that failure is unacceptable. But in all actuality, when you get in the real world, failure is just something that teaches you what you need to do better the next time. It helps you. It's growing pains. It's something that builds you up and gives you more confidence, because you're like, okay, well, I failed when I did that this time. So, you know, you go back and take notes and you study it and you realize, okay, well, I'm going to do this time around, so that doesn't happen again. And you just got, you'll keep hitting more. That's the thing. You go around and ask any successful person, any person who we see in magazines and we see on the news, or we read in articles and stuff like that, they'll tell you of countless times that they've hit roadblocks of failure, and they got knocked completely down. You know, a lot of people don't know that Oprah used to, she got fired from a news station. You know, Michael Jordan got cut his senior year of high school from the basketball team. You know, there's several examples of great people. You know, Albert Einstein was labeled to be special needs at one point in his life when he was an adolescent. So like I said, so many examples of great people in our history that have done such great things and strive to be better, and not be better, but do more than the average person. And they had people throwing stuff in their face like, you're not going to do anything. You got this and that going on. So, you're automatically set up for failure. And they got over that hurdle and they went on to do great things. So I think this topic is very, it speaks to a lot of people, especially right now in the times that we're living in, when we see so many businesses closing their doors permanently. So many people who, I think right now more than ever, people are questioning their 9-to-5 circumstances, because these jobs are closing every day. They're losing money. Their stocks, they're tanking. Their surplus is out the window. Their clientele their clientele's closed. It's a domino effect. Their clients are closing, so they don't have the money, that same money from their clients anymore to keep their doors open. And let's be honest, pre-COVID, a lot of these businesses were just floating, keeping afloat anyway. So when COVID hit, it's like, well, man, that's the icing on the cake. That's it. That was all that needed to happen. Something traumatic as a pandemic to completely put the brakes on a business. So I think, I think this, like I said, unfortunately, this speaks volumes to a lot of people. I pray that some people figure out their circumstances and realize that, tomorrow's not promised for anyone, whether it's, your own life, your health, your wealth, your well-being, all of that. So I think we can take this and learn these situations, especially everything that we see going on around us in 2020. We can learn from it, and we can build something special in our own lives that'll make us great. And we'll be able to look back at this and say, damn, you know what? I remember when this and this happened, and it made me a stronger person in the end. So,
yep, wholeheartedly.
Yep. But so yeah, I think we can follow up with the second topic with that, because man, that first topic, man, that's a breath of fresh air right there. Honestly, Mike, I'm glad you brought that to the table, because so many people are scared. Their genius is suppressed. Their mindset is set to be nothing but to feed off of fear, unfortunately. And I think if people can get over that, I think they can do great things in their lives. So, secondly, this is something Toyota wanted to speak on. It said the gig economy is failing. It's an article. The gig economy is failing. Say hello to the hustle, to the hustle economy.
Yeah, good segue actually. From what we were just discussing, because
it does sound. It sounds similar.
Yes, So when I say that though, is because the hustle economy is giving people more options to now be more independent, on their income instead of having to rely on a 9-to-5 if they so choose to. Right now I'm not sure if anyone, depending on who's aware, but like Uber and Lyft are kind of going through a battle in California, especially on Uber or Lyft trying to classify their drivers as employees because it will cost them more instead of contractors, which they're currently being classified as. And, I believe that Uber and Lyft should try to work out a way to classify as employees so they can get more benefits like health insurance and, things like that, dental insurance. So now someone may ask, what's the difference between the hustle economy and the gig economy? Well, the gig economy, like drivers, stuff like that, are classified as contractors. You have another platform like a driver to rely on, but then the hustle economy is a little bit more, even more independent than that. You have, which is example of that would be like OnlyFans. OnlyFans is really popular now. I know it has a stigma of like a sex app, but it actually isn't. It wasn't meant for that. A lot of people are on there for payment for like musical lessons, things like that. Now that's not making for headlines because we all know what sells. But even the ones who are on there for other sexual things, that's fine, because there's nothing wrong with trying to get money independently and being your own boss. Like, Julian and Mike and I just got to discussing, cannot rely on a 9-to-5. And another thing that's kind of interesting to me is that how so many people think a 9-to-5 is much safer than entrepreneurship, when you can be snipped any day for any reason. Nothing is guaranteed. Not like it's in your contract that says no matter what happens, I have 4-year guarantee to get paid like it's a sports, like an NFL contract or something. It's not how it works. So it's like, there's risk to either side. So if I had to choose, that's my mindset is if I had to choose one since there's both risk, I'd rather bet on myself than trying to put the responsibility or like the chances of me being able to pay my bills into someone else's hands, some other human being's hands. So another example of the hustle economy is Patreon. Substack is a blog. Medium is one of them actually where the articles are actually derived from. Now, this I would kind of categorize. So there's 3 main things I would categorize somebody who's an entrepreneur or kind of like working for themselves. So you have like a freelancer, which is maybe a graphic designer, for instance. You also have the solopreneur, which is, for instance, say you have a product on Etsy where you're making like, bracelets and you sell them online. You can make passive income as that. Or you're like a startup founder, like what I do with Zemo, and you flat out have like a company, C corporation, hiring employees and contractors, and you're building something, you're still making money passively. So there's different ways now. There's never been a better time, especially during this pandemic, if you ask me, to start your own business. Everything is all over the place. So this is the best time to take advantage of it and build your own. Because the last time there was a financial crisis, 2008, a lot of big firms came out of that, Uber being one of them. Another big one is Airbnb. So I think like times like this, which happen seeming like now every 12 to 15 years, take advantage of it and build. But, I don't really speak too much on it because it's very straightforward. There's a lot of options out there to make money. Fiverr.com, TopTal, Gigster. If you have a skill, reach out to those platforms. And if you don't, there's now even courses where you can develop those skills, like Coursera. So there's really not really an excuse other than maybe you're just fearing, you're trying to, talk yourself out of it. But I think that if you just continue to push, seek out mentorship, read a lot of books and stuff like that. Twitter's a good place. We call it a peer-to-peer university. It's free. Go on there and follow a lot of the people that are kind of done that already before you. That way you don't even have to, if you're shy, you don't have to ask them. You can just follow their Twitter thread. You'll find a lot of answers. I still do that, and I'm pretty successful. And I still want to learn. I'll never stop. I think Warren Buffett, he's worth like $80 billion. He still reads every day. That's one thing I think a lot of people need to start to understand too, is that the learning doesn't stop. I remember I had one friend who was asking me to do a business with him. And I told him that he should probably start reading. And he took offense to it and it was like, why are you treating me like a student? And I was like, because I'm a student, you know what I mean? Like we all are. You know, if you really want to be successful in this, the learning doesn't stop. My dad's a physician. He still has to take exams every now and then to brush up on his medical skills. He's been practicing medicine for over 30 years and he still takes exams. It does not stop. So like, I think once you have that mindset, a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset, you're already 95% more ahead of the other people that haven't even tried yet. So there's one thing that you take from me speaking for the past 20 minutes is try to adopt a growth mindset and break out of that fixed mindset. And then to give you an open mind, it's like a cheat code for getting ahead, you know, because you start to realize how much you're absorbing from little things. It doesn't have to be traditional education. I'll watch a movie and just pick up on things and then regurgitate it later on in a conversation. And that conversation now flows into a meeting flows into a partnership. Next thing you know, you have 20% of a business. And I'm saying that because that literally happened. So like, try to embody it. Don't try to, copy the same methods that we've been taught our whole lives in the traditional education system in the United States. Try to like be creative and learn from everyone, no matter who they are, what race, gender, or age. You can learn something from everybody. So like I said, if you take one thing out of this, try to have a growth mindset and break out of that fixed mindset. Don't have a closed mind. Don't think that you're better than anybody. Don't think that you know more, or don't be naive and think that, this person can't teach me anything, and have enough humility to truly practice and know that, even if you won a championship, go back to the gym or go back that same night after it like Kobe did and practice for the next year. That's how you continue to win. It doesn't stop. When I watched the documentary that just came out with Michael Jordan, I think The Last Dance is what it's called. Jordan was legitimately sick. He didn't get 7 championships, as if he's not the best player of all time. He was really like angry about it. He was like, we should have got 7. He was saying it to the camera like he was in a therapy session. Like, we should have. That's a winner, someone who just doesn't stop. Like, it's just, you don't have to have that level of competitive spirit. Even if you have a slice of that, you'll be all right. That's my point, though. Just make sure that you have a growth mindset. I've said it 10 times now. That's how important it is. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sure you guys have plenty of stuff to add to that. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, man. I think you hit it right on the nose. You also had mentioned earlier, like you said, you never reach the max of your own potential.
Never.
So I think when people do and they settle or they get comfortable, you're just really limiting yourself. I remember hearing like there was an interview with Oprah and Kevin Hart, and Oprah said it's never about the money. It's never about any of that. It's about me becoming the best person I can be while I have this one life on earth. You know what I mean? And part of that is just what's your success. Success doesn't stop. It's not like once you hit, this certain amount of dollar or this height in a business or whatever it is that, oh, now you're successful. Like you said, you and your app and everything, you're looking at, okay, well, what's the next that we're going to be able to expand from this? What's the next way that we can, make life easier for other people? That's the ultimate goal.
Yes.
I think also like your environment of who you surround yourself with, not you specifically, Toil, but just in general. For all of us, it's like you said, if you're always the smartest one in the room, that's a lot of times a problem. Right?
And that's why I was telling people, use the internet. And it's literally called the World Wide Web. So don't confine yourself to your physical environment. Use the web. Yeah. I did growing up in Lima, Ohio. Most people don't know where that city is. It's a small town in Northwest Ohio. And with a population of 50,000 people, a lot of people, me and Julian grew up together. It's cliche to say, but literally you're dead or in jail or, a junkie. But I didn't let that, or he didn't let that affect us, because we use the internet to be able to seek mentorship from people that aren't even aware that we're seeking mentorship from them. That's the beauty of the internet. Use it to your advantage. But anyway, go on. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah. You want to surround yourself. Like you said, if you're in a room of millionaires, you'll be the next one. And once you hit being a millionaire, try and surround yourself from those that have $50 million net worth. Once you hit that level, try and surround yourself around those with 9 figures. If your goal is to continue to climb up and grow a business or manifest the visions that you have prepared for yourself, your family, and what you want, always try to surround yourself with those people. So that's something I'm actively trying to look at right now. And, even in terms of mentorship, I know in times that, I'll be very transparent that sometimes in mentorship, you can have arrogance or pride that kind of is like, I don't want to come to somebody and pretty much ask for help. Like,
Right.
Sometimes you can feel that. You're like, I'm good. I'm just gonna figure it out myself. Like you said, I got the internet, so I'll just go on the internet and research this. But it's like, to see someone doing things and follow a direction of somebody that's already done it and is way more successful than you are at it is not really begging for, a handout or of education. It's being smart about how you get your education, really. So that's something I've been actively trying to think about as well, is like you said, that mentorship, guidance. Because again, once I reach this certain level, there's always the next level that you can kind of achieve. So
yeah, you can always get better.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and and the thing, I think a lot of people's pride stunts their growth. Some people are so prideful that they feel like they don't need someone's help or assistance with something, and you're stunting your growth when you feel like you've learned everything that you could possibly learn, because no one ever does. Like you said, like Toyosi was saying, his dad has been practicing medicine for over 30 years, and he still takes exams and stuff like that. Like, it just doesn't stop. And your dad's probably one of the most intelligent people I know, Toyo. So when that speaks volumes, and to a person that's been practicing in their field for that long, that they still have to brush up on their skills. There's certain protocols and stuff like that might have changed within the last couple years.
Yeah, it could be life or death. You know what I mean? Like, he literally is a doctor, so it's like yeah,
exactly. And I know people. I knew professors and stuff like that. Who got PhDs and stuff like that, and they constantly are learning. They're constantly in books and in articles and researching stuff. That's how you keep feeding your brain as well. That's brain food. And when people stop feeding their mind, they're starving their brains. And
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. It's like starving your mind, because you have so much. People have so much more to learn than what's around them, and it's like you said. It's like you guys were just touching on. It's who you surround yourself with, and also what Chelsea said. Where we come from, there wasn't a lot of that. There wasn't a lot of people that we could be like, oh man, I want to be like him when I grow up, because a lot of people that we knew had a small town mentality, but I saw it in Toyo when we first started hanging out, that he wanted to get up out of lineman, and we used to talk about it all the time. We sit down in this basement like, bro, we're not gonna be here forever. I already see it, blah blah blah. Like, I knew that I was gonna live, move to the city or go do something else besides just living in Lima, Ohio. And God knows I love that city, like, with every fiber, bone in me, because my family still resides there. But there's nothing there. Like Toyo said, you're either dead or you're in jail, or a junkie, and a lot of people are settled there. A lot of people have basic 9-to-5 jobs at the refinery there. A lot of people do some of the basic.
Like, if that's what you want, there's nothing wrong with that. We need
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
For the people that are joining this call, this is obviously meant for people that are like want to do their own thing and be interested. We want to make sure that we're not trying to insult.
We're not knocking anyone that wants to do that. That feels that's their lifestyle.
I want to make that
because
clear.
I have a lot of my family. I have a lot of family who do really well for themselves, that have worked for the refinery and PPG and everything like that.
We need that, though. We need that.
We need that. Yeah, exactly. We need the cashiers at McDonald's. We need the someone who's going to sweep the floors at restaurants, or bus boys and stuff like. Everyone has a role to play, and
that's what's important. It's important.
It's still important.
But you do what you want to do. If you want to do that, fine.
Right.
If you're forcing yourself and you don't want to do that, that's where the problem lies. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You hit it right on the nose.
Yeah.
It's all about. There's so many people that. How many people do you go up to in restaurants and stuff like that? And they're like, oh yeah, I got a master's and this and that, but they're busting tables, or you know what I mean, or they're managing Family Dollar or something, or
I'm glad you brought that. So say for instance you have a master's in so and you're doing that.
Yeah.
If you have an angle, if you know where you want, if you know where you want to get to, and that's like the step you want to take, like you want to bust the tables. And I was a busboy,
Yeah.
But I did it for self-discipline. I wanted to be able to like really go through the pain of doing this.
It's humbling.
It's very humbling, and I knew I never wanted to go back. Now I don't forget how my back used to hurt busting those tapes.
Yeah,
That drives me to continue doing what I do today. So that helps.
absolutely.
So like, if you're doing that, just know where you want to go at least. Don't just do it blindly. Actually have a plan. I know Tyson has that quote that says, everyone has a plan until they get smacked in the mouth. Then learn how to adapt. So coronavirus smacked everybody in the mouth. I'm included. We have to, with my company, we used to be called SwiftDine. We changed it to Zemo. Well, now we're making more money, not to brag, but than we did before, because we just learned how to adapt. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't have these humbling beginnings of being a valet in Columbus or a busboy in Lima, Ohio. Those are the things I will hold dear to me for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
And and I think that is important. So like, if you do those things, then use it to your advantage. Don't just use it. Don't let that be in vain. Remember those times and use that as jet fuel to continue the drive. A lot of people, what happens is they get motivated at first, and then they run out of motivation. That's because they don't have anything that's driving the fuel, or fueling the drive. But if you remember the humbling beginnings and you never want to go back to that, that will get you up at 6 a.m. and make sure you
it will.
That will get you up, and scrape the ice off your windshield in the winter to go to work. You don't want to go back to the bottom.
No.
Yeah, it comes back to the first thing that we said, it's your passion, right? And I personally, again, there's like you said, there's no insult to anybody who's watching this. I personally haven't met anybody whose lifelong dream is maybe to be a busboy, right? That I haven't personally met that, but I'm sure they're out there, right? And that's your dream. And if that's your passion and that's it's your life, you got to do what makes your life happy.
Yeah.
But if you also say, well, I know my dream is I want to travel, the world, and I want to, I don't know, see just about every sightseeing out there and not have to worry financially about coming back and losing your job, or you don't want to worry about really money or financial opportunities, but you say your dream is also a busboy. Well, you got to understand which one outweighs the other, right? Is it that you want to travel and you want to see the world that oversees your dream of being a busboy, right? So you got to know, okay, well, if you want that, is this other dream, is this job or career choice going to get you there? And like you said, you can use that busboy moment that you're in right now as, like you said, a learning lesson. It's hard work too. They should be paid more. It's not. So that's going to teach you work ethic. That's a huge step toward maybe doing something that's going to get you to the stage where you are able to travel freely. You know what I mean? So everyone's goal is not. I don't think really anyone's goal is. Well, I don't know. Let me take that back. I was gonna say I don't think really anyone's goal is just to say, hey, I got $50 million sitting in my account. Mm-hmm. But again, what that $50 million does get you is essentially the freedom to do in life as you will. You're not confined to a manager telling you when you cannot leave or go with your family to do things, or you're not worried about, if you have kids, their financial or their educations, and you know that they're going to be able to have a free life. And I think that is typically, when you think of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, liberty is kind of that pursuit. I mean, that's why they all go together. I think everybody wants freedom, and you don't want to be, confined, or your life being told where to go and what to do. And I think that's what we're really trying to just promote, is how do you get to those opportunities if that is a passion of yours? You know what I mean?
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like you said, I've never met anyone whose lifelong dream is to be a busboy, but like you said, there probably are some people out there. You never know. You can't necessarily knock anyone's dream, because everyone has a dream. It might be the smallest, simplest thing, or something, very outside the box, and that could, but nonetheless could be something that could set them up for success, and set them on a path of no one has seen before. No one would have ever thought that taxi cabs would get replaced with normal people driving around cars and taking them to parties every day. Example, Uber, Lyft, what we were just talking about. No one would have thought that someone, there were, instead of pizza places or Chinese places delivering food, that it was going to be actually someone, a normal person in their car, going to go pick their food up for you from a restaurant and dropping it off to your front door. Example, Uber Eats and Grubhub and stuff like that. But those are people those companies sat there and said, how can I make it more simple? You know, in the era of convenience, because I always call this the convenience era. That's what we live in right now. How can we make your people's lives more convenient? And that's what companies are aiming to do right now, because people don't want to leave their houses. People don't want to go out there and risk getting exposed to the to the coronavirus. So they're bringing the convenience to your front door. So
Push of a
you
button.
know, look what Toyo did. Stepped outside the box. Toyo and his brother did. They stepped outside the box and they switched Swift on to Zemo, and look, they're more profitable than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things we keep touching on those on every call, is adapting. You got to be able to adapt with the times. And it's an unfortunate thing that we're seeing a lot of places that, you know, they didn't have any control of the situation. They kind of just smacked them in the mouth, the pandemic. And, you know, they had no choice but to shut their doors permanently. But a lot of places, you know, there's a handful of companies that learn to adapt. And Jeff Bezos is one of the richest people.
It's hard to cut you off, June, but it's mindset, right? Like, so, like, the ones who shut down, and I want to speak on this because, you know, SwiftDine, if you haven't known by the name, we work directly with restaurants. So that's probably, if not the number one biggest hit industry in the United States, definitely top 3. So I would say if you're one of those people watching right now who had a restaurant, maybe even a family-owned restaurant, and you're shut down permanently, if you have the right mindset, you know, it's a minor setback for a major comeback. You know, take the lessons from that and adapt. It doesn't have to be the end. You know, obviously, you ain't about to just sit there forever and just cry about it. You gotta find some way to feed yourself. No pun intended. But, you know, you just got to make sure that you adapt. That's it.
Absolutely. Adapt. And we've been touching on that pretty much every call. That's
the theme of Julian Talks. That's the whole point.
Exactly. I swear that word at least comes up at least 5 times every call. You know what I mean?
Because we're trying. It's like we're going to drill it in everyone's head one by one until they get it. Like,
exactly.
If we fail at that, you know, that's on us. You know, we can't.
That's on us. We're sorry, y'all. We failed y'all if y'all don't get it. That's so.
No viewer left behind.
Right.
Yeah.
So that you know, and speaking on restaurants, we're gonna speak to the third and the final topic of Financial Times reports that the value of U.S. commercial property has been slashed by 27%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's huge.
Towns should talk about that too. You know, he's in real estate. So
yeah, Towns, I'd like you're the expert on the call on you know, real estate and commercial properties. What do you think caused that major slash? Do you think it's because of the pandemic, or were there other leading factors as well?
I think it's absolutely primarily because of the pandemic. Again, like we said, we've talked about the adaptation, and we didn't really have a lot of that through COVID, right? So if we're saying, what was it, 60% of Columbus restaurants, for example, had to shut down permanently.
That's crazy.
So all of those were either commercial properties that were owned or leased by other individuals or their company. So if their company shut down, if their company shut down, then it's a chain reaction, right? So the real estate that commercially is out there is not as valuable. I mean, commercial real estate, I feel like probably is still having a little bit of hit here and there in general, probably because of one single company with Amazon, right? So retail is a little bit different these days. So some of those commercial buildings are changing. But commercial space is always going to be needed. Like I said, medical doctors, there's so many offices and everything, but all of these businesses to some degree typically, you know, got hit. So it's just a chain reaction. So if I own a building and I may have a mortgage on it, but my primary, you know, thing is investing in that building. So I have a tenant that I was expecting to be there for 10 years. They signed a 5-year lease with an option to extend it, and now they're gone, you know, overnight, you know. So that's about what, maybe $5,000 to $10,000 it could be, you know, of income for that building to take care of expenses. Now the mortgage is still due. You know, the banks are still calling those notes, you know, a few months later or so. And there was a lot of deferral payments throughout COVID, but it only lasts so long. The business is still gone. And I always say this too, you know, like I said, I'm more interested primarily personally in residential because everyone needs to live somewhere, no matter what. But the commercial space is a lucrative investment because once you get a tenant in there, typically there's no such thing as obviously a month to month, or unless you have some unusual maybe agreement. But more times than none, they're on like about 5-year leases, and then they have that option to extend it at the end of the 5 years. So you may, again, if you have a business that's going into a commercial space, you have to find a specific business. Not everybody owns a business, right? We were just talking about it. Not everybody's an entrepreneur. And if they are an entrepreneur, not every business needs a building. So you have a limited option of clientele, I guess, that's going to be able to lease that space. So if it's vacant, it may be a year until you get somebody in there. So you're paying a mortgage if you have it on it for a year. But once you get somebody in there, the biggest payoff is now you got it for 5 years, as opposed to residential. You may have a year lease, then you got to find a new tenant, a lot of times, or they may be there for 2 years and you find a new one and everything. So there's very big benefits to it. But again, now we're seeing the outcome. Okay, well, if a COVID happens or something like this that the world probably never anticipated, how again do we adapt? And obviously, the values of these properties are going to go down. So was your entire plan for retirement or other income, was it all dependent on these properties? Again, this shows diversification and the need of that. But yeah, commercial property, long story short, commercial properties aren't going to be as valuable as much as they were, a year ago, because there's just not, they're more vacant.
And to echo what Towns was saying about how the restaurants are being, are actually, part of that. Yeah. If people don't know they're watching this, if they don't know, like the restaurant, the largest fee was the mortgage or the rents of that real estate. They weren't able to do that. So like he says, a chain reaction. But like I said before in one of the calls, the pandemic to me isn't a change agent, it's an accelerant. And unfortunately, the restaurants, everyone loves food. Unfortunately, I have to say that like the restaurant industry was just too saturated. There was a restaurant, it's like a restaurant at every corner when you go down the street here in Mag Mile in Chicago. A lot of them are shut down because they really shouldn't have been there to begin with. I hate to say it, like, not every restaurant needs thousands of square footage. You could be like a taco truck is a very smart one. Mobile, it's small, lower overhead. You still get the job done and feed people, a lot of them, especially during lunchtime. So I think that a lot of rethinking needs to be done when people come back after, because this is not going to last forever. It's going to probably even by next year, maybe if it's this time next year, then it's 2021, these will start to look like they used to before. I hope they don't look like they used to before. I hope they look better. I hope people actually take this time to reflect and improve upon their operations. Don't make the same mistakes. Try to protect yourself from this potentially happening again in the future for yourself and generations to come.
Absolutely. Yeah. COVID, again, I think we said it on a different call, but COVID was a big lesson of over leveraging, not saving to a degree. Again, not all businesses, every business is different, but, I think a lot of people, at least in my experience in banking, we did see a lot of that. A business may have 3 different restaurants, but you have, $20,000 in the account, because you've over leveraged, putting down payments and buying different men. You're trying to expand fast, but you also, this was a lesson, like you said, it was a learned lesson where, maybe you should have more in the bank or more opportunities out there so that if something came up, you're not going to lose everything. And we see that with the businesses that did thrive through it, or they are thriving through it, they're still able to maintain. And there's a reason, to some degree. So, and one other thing I was just going to throw out too that I wasn't going to mention about the property values going down in the commercial world. I mean, in residential as well, but in the commercial world, it's really, if you look at appraisals and values of properties, there's like 3 primary ways that they look at evaluation. And probably the biggest when you look at commercials is what's called an income approach. And if you're not familiar, essentially it's just, if you have a tenant in a place, what is the lease like, or is the tenant taking care of expenses and all these things. When they literally look at that, there's 3 different numbers that can come up for evaluation for a building. The one is going to be the building for the building as it is, so vacant. And that vacant price could be literally 20% less or more than what the price is going to be if it's fully occupied or if it has tenants in it, because it's obviously bringing in income. A building that's bringing in income is going to be dramatically different in a commercial space than a vacant space. So immediately, if a property loses a tenant that was initially there and its value was 1.8 million, it now could literally drop and immediately overnight be 1.4 million, simply because it's not occupied and it's vacant, because that's how important it is to find a space that can occupy it. So with all the vacancies, again, it's a direct tie to the values of properties going down.
There you guys. There you guys have it. Expert in the flesh. Take notes. Julian, got anything you want to add?
Yeah, so like I said, it's a lot of people should definitely go back to the drawing board and realize this is a perfect time for people to go back and see what went right and what went wrong when most of these businesses had to shut their doors permanently. And it sucks because a lot of businesses that closed were businesses that we grow to love over the years. You know, a lot of people around us and people surrounding areas frequented on a daily basis, maybe in a weekly basis, or with something special to their families. And that people never really know what's going on behind the scenes. The overhead. Who do they owe? How business is going. Are they profitable? Those are key things that keep businesses open. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. They think just because, it's a great business, they love it. And, everyone around them, they know loves it, that, that they're doing great. But a lot of people got to think, a lot of jobs in America are Monday through Friday. So when you frequent these places, most people go Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. That's when a lot of these businesses see their peak. But they don't know what goes on during the week, Monday through Thursday. They could have no one coming in the door. I literally worked for businesses in the past, or had friends who worked for businesses in the past. They literally got sent home early every single day during the week because there was literally no one there, and I think more than anything, you got to learn to be creative.
Sorry, I was muted. I was talking. I was saying that's why I encourage people to think digital. Digital real estate is also a thing people should explore because there's a lot lower overhead. The internet is free. If you can create a store online like Shopify, or like I said before, if you want to do OnlyFans, that's an option. If you want to drive an Uber, that's an option. If you want to build your own website, it's an option. Do it. It's just lower overhead. That overhead is what really kills you. Those high fees.
Hey, adaptation.
Right? Yeah, adapt. This is 2020, guys. Like this is a better time to
literally. Yeah, I mean, I haven't mentioned a ton about it, but I have a T-shirt line.
I was about to say that. Yeah, exactly.
My dream initially when I first started is just I had this image, just like, it would be so dope to see, Ohio Forever listed on the front of a retail building and, selling shirts directly through it. I personally, have zero interest in that today. And
wisely so.
And when I say that, it's not because it was, I'd rather have a successful business than a failing business that I just am doing what I always kind of like the idea.
Yeah. Being stuck in the old way.
Yeah, I'm willing to, like you did, you guys had a dream of what the name was going to be, right? Mm-hmm. And you had to change with adaptation because you want a business to be thriving as opposed to maybe going the other direction.
Yeah.
So there's certain changes you have to do in order to make sure that you're being successful. I mean, something so simple as, I'm not sure if anybody watching this is familiar with Fifth Third Bank. But initially, if you look at their colors, in the past, they were red and black. And banks, if you realize, red and black is never usually a positive sign for good wealth in the money world. So they changed it to green and blue now. And so you have to be willing to make changes in regards to the health of your business. Just like we do in our regular bodies, it's like your business is like your body. If I'm eating, terribly every single day and then eventually, I have a heart attack, you think I'm going to probably wake up the next day and do the same thing? Or am I going to change in order to make my life thrive and be healthy and actually live longer? Treat your business the same exact way. That's all.
Yep.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, people don't realize though too, going back to the commercial property thing, I think the value has been going down even pre-pandemic because
it's an accelerant. It was going to happen regardless.
It was going to happen eventually. It was like a bubble that was just waiting to pop. Honestly, when I worked for the dry cleaning company that I worked for, just picking up and delivering dry cleaning, something, that I did previously to my job that I have now. I came across so many people who worked in office buildings and, who said that they work from home now, because of the overhead and because they realized they could do all the stuff that that they could do all the stuff that they did in the office from their house. So I think that was important to see, especially when that some of my accounts were downtown, and I seen like all these empty office buildings now, and I'm sitting there like, man, this is the future. People working from their house, getting up, brushing their teeth, gargling, getting a quick breakfast in, and hitting the couch with their laptop in front of them. That's office. That's the office now.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree, man. I think that, like you said, that's why I'm a little bit of a direct advocate, more so the residential route, because no matter what, everybody's going to need a home. But the way of technology,
you can't put that on the internet.
The way the technology and directions are going, is everyone, or even the majority, going to need commercial buildings? I mean, it's going to be there, but is it going to be as much as it is or has been, I should say? That's kind of up for discussion, right? You know what I mean? And so again, that just comes with diversification. So I wouldn't if I was a real estate investor or being a real estate investor, I wouldn't put all my eggs in just commercial. Start looking at residential, start diversifying it. So again, that way you're ready for adaptation. I think we are going to keep.
There we go. The key word to Julian Talks: adaptation.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Adapt, guys. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely appreciate everyone's time. I thank my co-hosts, Mr. Telsey Z's and also Mr. Michael Towns, for being on this call with me. Anyone who knows that we have a Julian Talks YouTube page as well. I have been doing terrible of getting those videos uploaded from the previous call, but I am going to work on that here within the next couple of days of getting these calls snipped, trimmed, and ready to be thrown online. So people can enjoy this content and soak up some of this game that we're throwing on these calls. And if not anything else, I always say it for anybody who tunes in, tell your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your auntie, your uncle, cousin, anyone that might be interested in getting on these calls, let them know. I will gladly send them a link and get them hooked up with getting on these calls with us. So, gentlemen.
The game, guys, right now, Miami's playing Celtics. It's closing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I'm about to go jump on that. As soon as we get on that call, I'm tuned in.
For sure.
All right.
Yep.
Enjoy it, fellas. It's good connecting with you as always.
Yeah.
As always, gentlemen, and we'll do this again in a couple weeks, and I'll chit chat with y'all here within the coming days.
For sure.
All right. Take care.
All right, y'all take care. Have a good night.
Yep. Too.